We're into the new year and it's 2025, and that sounds crazy. And I want to know where my flying car is. I still haven't seen it. The Jetsons lied to us all those years ago, Scott. But let's talk about, instead of that this week, although that could be a fun conversation too. Let's talk about where to contribute in 2025 with our dollars, right? So what are we doing? And we're starting to get ready for retirement, or not, even if retirement's years away, like just where's the best place to contribute in the new year? Because there's been a lot of new changes out there over the last couple of years. More and more companies are doing, Roth 401ks, right? Yep. So that's obviously the super sweet option if you can have that available. But let's talk about that a little bit this week. How was your new year? How you doing?
Yeah, holidays were good. Time to kind of get back at it here and get those good healthy habits in place for sure.
We're going to do resolutions, right? Everybody is, right? So do one with your money, right?
Yeah, there you go. Let's call it a goal or a behavior change, because we don't want any financial resolutions that are going to be abandoned by January 19th or whatever they say they normally are.
Yeah. Okay.
2
fair
weeks
enough.
or whatever. So,
fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of like healthy habits, right? I think it's kind of an interesting thing to think about it like that. When you think of, how we're saving our money. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to talk about investments. We can talk about whether we should buy Pepsi or Coke later. Sure. I'm not recommending either of those, to be clear, but not so much what are we buying.
No RC? No love for RC?
Oh man, I grew up on Faygo and RC collab with
man, you're RC. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
But what accounts are we saving in? So I will tell you, most of the folks that I see that come in and meet with us online they're just maxing their 401k.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's what we're taught to do. That's what we're taught.
For sure. Almost all of them are putting it into the pre-tax portion. That might be fine for you. It might not. I'm not sure. But it's just the default. So they do the default option. I go into the pre-tax, and then the employer, so whatever United, Southwest, Delta, American, whatever they put in comes into the pre-tax as well. Well, it does not. Most of these guys by the summer, especially if they got some time under their belt, by the summer, they are maxing out their 401k between a 17-ish% auto contribution, the amount that they're putting in, a profit sharing coming typically in the spring. If you start stacking all those things up in there, they're maxing the 401k pretty quickly. Well, then what happens after that? For some folks, if they're enrolled in that market-based cash balance plan we talked about at the end of last year, the excess that would have gone to the 401k will start to go to that plan.
Right.
If you're opted out of that plan, or your airline doesn't have one of those plans yet, then you'll start getting that bump into your paycheck. So you have an excess coming into your paycheck for the back half of the year, which is kind of nice. But most guys typically will end up spending that, though. The other thing is they're not really many times leaning into saving in all the places that they could or should be saving. Mm-hmm. If we think about the classification, the different colors of money for how the IRS looks at it, we have 3 distinct buckets. We have our Roth bucket, tax-free forever. We have our tax-deferred bucket, which means we put pre-tax money in it, gross pre-tax, and then we pay taxes on it when it comes out.
Right.
That's like our 401k, our traditional IRAs. Then we have our taxable bucket, which is like an individual brokerage account or something like that, where I put money in and I pay taxes on the capital gains and the dividends. Well, what we see is most guys just have this huge, or soon to be huge, tax-deferred bucket. And they're not doing anything in these other 2 buckets.
Yeah, you got the tax bomb waiting on you.
Absolutely. And so if we can look at like spreading some of that out, where we're starting to build some tax-free money over here, and we're starting to build some taxable money over here, where all we got to pay is, capital gains and dividend tax over here, it really diversifies you in retirement, where, first of all, if tax rates go up significantly in retirement, which I think there's a risk they could.
Sure.
It's not going to hurt you as much. If you have all your money in that pre-tax bucket, any tax rate increases mean that if you want to have the same lifestyle, you got to be taking more money out every year.
Right.
So that's one aspect of it in retirement. The other side of it is most of these guys are not really, taking time to research, because they're busy, man. They're busy flying people all over the place safely and doing the things that they love to do.
Especially over the holiday season, everybody, there's a lot of stuff going on, right?
For sure.
A lot of travel.
Yeah. So, but if you can take some time to look at how can I get money over into this Roth IRA bucket? I hear all the time, hey, I hear about these backdoor Roth IRAs. By the time I look into it, I'm tired or not interested, or
Right.
I don't care about the details of actually implementing it. I've thought about it for a decade, but I haven't done anything. Um, and it's like, dude, I mean, I get that with certain things in my life too, but this is something that with that strategy specifically, if you have your assets kind of consolidated the right way and I'm maxing my 401k, I'm hitting the market-based cash balance plan, and I still have some excess money to save, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
Some guys will just say, well, I guess I'll buy a rental house because I should be doing something to invest this. I don't want to just sit with cash.
Well, don't give too much away because we're going to talk about other places to invest on next week's episode. So
That's right.
You got to tease a little bit.
Yes. And so, when we think about those classifications here,
yeah,
it's really like, okay, where should I be saving in 2025? And I think when it looks at the pre-tax or the Roth, that's really the big decision that the pilot has to make inside of their retirement savings.
Well, let's pull that back for just a second, Scott. So like I was just helping my wife do the same exact thing because they had to do something for the new year. And you were talking about the default, and the default was it had a preset number. It was sending it right to a traditional 401k, and you could just leave it that way and be done. Right. And she's like, but I want to have more flexibility. And you talk about all this stuff on a regular basis. So what should we be looking at? Well, you had to click a different option to look at the Roth 401k. So let's just kind of talk about that one for a second, because that one they created this to kind of give us that kind of best of both worlds a little bit, right? So if you wanted to do something from the Roth standpoint, but you have those income limits from the 401k, that could be a great option for people, especially if you're making a lot more.
Well, and when you think about it, we had a guy in the office the other day asking about, hey, should I be doing some in-plan conversions? So the plan allows them to take some of their pre-tax 401k and actually convert it to Roth, which is great. But when you do that, you basically owe taxes on the amount that you converted. And so that led into a discussion where we said, hey, instead of doing that, why don't we just have all your future contributions go into the Roth? And it's going to start out smaller. But in essence, if you can only put, like for 2025, you can put 23,500 into the 401k from the employee side. And so that pilot can put 23.5 into pre-tax or 23.5 into Roth. Now, here's the thing. If I put 23.5 into pre-tax, it's going to grow to whatever amount it's going to grow to. And then when I retire, I'm not getting 23.5 plus growth out. I'm getting 23.5 plus growth minus 30 to 40% taxes. Yeah. If I put 23.5 into the Roth, I paid the tax now.
And you're in the historically low tax rates, don't forget.
For sure. Now, some of our folks are definitely in those upper brackets, right?
So
if you're in the 37% bracket and you're going to retire in 5 years, it might not make sense. We might just say, keep it in the pre-tax, because here in a short enough time frame, you're going to be able to start distributing that at a lower tax rate.
Yeah.
But for some of our younger folks, in essence, what you're doing is you're kind of doing a little bit of a Roth conversion, peanut butter spread over the entire year that you're contributing to that 401k.
Yeah.
And so it makes a lot of sense for our younger folks to really consider, do I start to put it into the Roth? But again, if you're maybe you're a younger pilot and you're not in that top bracket yourself, but your wife's a physician or something like that. Yeah, maybe it makes sense to just keep it all in pre-tax and then, deal with
because you're also balancing that taxable income, right? So if you're a high income earner, you want to also have some things to help reduce your taxable income limit. So it does become that's why you have a job, right, Scott? I mean, that's why people come to folks like yourself, financial advisors, say, okay, what is the striking balance that we need to do? Because maybe we are a high income earner, or to your point, you're talking about 23.5. If you're over 50, well, that's 30,000, right? Because you're at catch up contribution phase. So there's a lot of balance to this, and especially if you are over 50, you and your spouse could be making a good chunk of change. If you're a pilot, she's a nurse, whatever, doctor, whatever, she's a pilot, whatever, right? Make sure that you're having these conversations so that you can be as efficient tax-wise as possible. It makes a big difference.
Well, and there's times where you have to look at the plan and decide, do we want to be less efficient now so we can be more efficient later? And because you want to show up in retirement saying, man, I'm glad we did that, versus, oh man, I wish we would have done that. Because I can tell you, when you work with retirees like we have for many years, I don't ever hear somebody in retirement saying, I wish I had less Roth money. I've never heard it one time. I've never heard anybody ever say, man, I really wish I would have deferred more of my income until now. And so regardless of the tax rates, I can tell you there is almost like a non-math answer, which is like, I just want to have a boatload of tax-free money that I can go buy a boat with or something and not have to worry about taking out 100,000 to get 60,000.
Yeah.
And so diversification matters. And I think, we apply that to investments. It makes sense to just apply it to our tax color of our money too. So that's worth thinking about for 2025, and takes a couple minutes to make some of these little tweaks. I mean, literally minutes, that's all. And then we can drastically change the direction and where we land in retirement.
Absolutely. And you can have a conversation with a financial professional like Scott if you need some, guidance, right? So we'll keep with the airplane theme. So if you need some guidance, if you need a little GPS action, reach out to him, let him know you need some help. Check out the show descriptions below. Get a link to the calendar there, or you can get on the calendar and reach out to Scott and get going. Go to retireairlines.com. That's retireairlines.com. A lot of good tools, tips, and resources there for you to check out as well. And don't forget to subscribe to us here on the Wealthy Pilots podcast. And that way you catch the next episode when we're going to talk about other places to possibly save for your future as well. So check that out. We'll see you next time here on the Wealthy Pilots podcast.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.